Hello and welcome. Now, before we get started, just let me say, while I'm unloading all this information and telling you what you should be doing to make sure you hit your first course out of the park, you're going to have distractions. You'll have emails and text messages, somebody sending you funny pictures of a cat juggling unicorns. And as amusing as all this is, it's not going to help you one bit in creating a course. So, for the duration of this short lesson, mute your phone, turn off your messages and close your Facebook page. Right, so let's get started. If you're thinking of creating a course, you're going to get a lot of value out of this free mini course that I've put together. It's going to be perfect for you if you're either just getting started and you're trying to put all the pieces together, or you're thinking of getting started and you're just not sure how to start. Or maybe you've already tried and it didn't go as well as you hoped. If this is you, great. You're in the right place, I can help you. Now, I'm not really big on talking about myself, but I guess I should at least do an introduction and give you a very brief insight into what makes me qualified to teach course creation. So I will, and I'll keep it real short. My name is Andrew Sweeney, and I've been involved in digital courses for over 20 years. But you likely won't have heard of me before, and that's because, while the other experts have been busy promoting themselves, I was quietly building infinite skills, which turned into an 8-figure course creation empire. What I teach is based on my experience of actually doing it. I just wanted to point out that what I'm going to show you actually works in the real world. In fact, I started to create courses as a way to save my business, as a means to pull me out of the proverbial. What started as a means to make my business at the time more profitable ended up as my core business. There's no doubt about it. Creating successful courses is very profitable. Now, I really want you to get the most out of this free mini course, so here's what I've done. I've also created a Facebook group to go along with it, so if you have any questions about what I've covered, if there's something you don't understand, I want you to let me know. Just post a question. Maybe you've got comments, or there's a topic that you wished I'd covered. Maybe something that you're currently struggling with. Drop me a line via the Facebook group. Anyway, let's get to it. In this video, we're going to take a look at what it takes to get started creating your course and what you should be paying attention to if you want your course to be a success. It's really not that hard if you follow a few simple steps. Now, you may be thinking, well, if it's not that hard, why is it over 80% of all course creators fail to make any money? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They go about it all wrong. Here's the thing. The barrier to creating a course is really low, but the mountain you have to climb to get to the finish line isn't. Basically, most that fail do so because they get it wrong right at the start, and that makes it so much harder to finish. Get the start right, everything else falls into place. As you're going to find out. Creating a course, it's pretty unique. You get to work from anywhere, you pick your hours, and you can earn incredible amounts of money. And you're helping people at the same time. That's about as good as it gets. It's true. Just one successful course can totally change your life. Just imagine if you released a successful course today, what you'd be doing in 12 months' time. Think about how your life would have changed, the house you'd have, the car, or the holidays, how your family would benefit. Seriously, I want you to imagine it, but keep it realistic. Now, it's important you do this. It's important that the vision you create is achievable. So don't go thinking Lear jets and yachts and private islands. It's got to be realistic. This is your first lesson. It's your first step. When you visualize your future like this and you visualize it every day, it becomes real, and then you believe it's possible. Belief in your success is step 1 to building an entrepreneurial mindset. Now, this is getting pretty dangerously close to motivational speaking, but you need to hear it. It's important that you're confident in what you're doing. And here's why this is important. If you don't think you can do something, you don't put in 100% effort, and therefore, guess what? It fails. Mindset is really important. There are going to be times during your journey where you have a setback. It happens. Then you'll start to question yourself. You'll question, is the effort going to be worth it? And trust me, this will come. It happens to everybody. When it comes, I want you to remember the reason why you're doing it. The life that you promise yourself and you promise your family. You don't want to let them or yourself down. You've got to kind of get away from this I'm building a course mindset. You've got to look at this as though you're doing something to change your life. And as much as this sounds like it would come from one of those pumped up motivational speakers, it's true. This is how you have to treat it. I truly believe anyone can create a course and everyone has something that others will pay to learn. I really mean that. You don't have to be some expert or have any special talents. I mean, look at me. There's nothing special about me. I failed at high school, never went to college, I've not got an exam to my name, I'm dyslexic, I'm an introvert and my IQ is pretty average, I guess. I mean, I don't know, I've never taken an IQ test. Anyway, my point is, if I can do it, I'm sure you can. I'm going to start with one of the most important aspects of course creation, something that in my opinion, most course creators don't pay enough attention to, and that's exactly what topic to cover. Sure, most know what they want to teach, but 9 out of 10 times, they're going for too broad an audience. The logic is, and I can understand why you'd think like this, the logic is, the bigger the audience, the more successful you'll be, the more customers you'd have. This is not the case. When you try to sell to everybody, you end up selling to nobody. Broad markets are crowded, lots of competitors fighting hard for the customer's attention. This is what I call the top level. The easy money is not at this level. Move down a couple of levels, this is what is referred to as a niche. And when you do this, you normally find a market that's ignored by the masses. And the audience in a niche is really receptive to a product they feel is aimed directly at them. While the masses are fighting hard, shouting at the crowded market, the smart course creators are quietly dominating the more profitable market. This is the smart way to operate. Let me give you an example of how a little shift can make a big difference. A while back, I was approached at Infinite Skills, which by the way was the name of my company before I sold it. I was approached by an author who wanted to create a Photoshop course. Now Photoshop is a really popular program, it's got a huge audience. And as big as the audience is, every man and his dog has a training course on Photoshop. Marketing a product to such a generic audience is hard and expensive, so I changed it, just a little. But boy, what a difference it made. Instead of a Photoshop course for the larger market, we did a Photoshop for Architects course. It's pretty much the same content, same skills, same techniques and all that. We just made a few adjustments, changed the title, and repositioned the product to exploit a niche. We ended up doing really well from that. It was a market no one was paying attention to. At the time, we pretty much had 100% of that market. Let me give you another example that highlights a slightly different consideration. A friend of mine wanted to build a course on memory techniques for students. Good choice, you'd think. I mean, students have a lot of stuff to remember. But as I pointed out to him, students don't normally want to spend the type of money he should be charging for how good his course was. So I convinced him to switch it slightly and focus his teaching on techniques to professionals doing corporate speaking, those who want to give compelling presentations and don't want to read from a script. A far more lucrative market with people happy to pay for the results his course delivers. He did, and he totally crushed it. And that was just by slightly repositioning his offer. So that's another consideration. Is your market willing to pay? Is it able to pay? There may be a gap in the market, but is there a market in the gap? When you finish this lesson, I'd like you to think a little about your topic, do a little research. Are you missing a niche that's right under your nose? Could you reposition your topic to speak to an audience that would be likely able to pay more or be more receptive to your course? Is there an audience that's being ignored? It's worth having an open mind and doing a little research before you lock your idea in. When you research, it's a bit of a balancing act. You don't want to go too niche. You're not trying to find a market with 0 competitors. If I find no competitors, very little in the way of free content on YouTube, not much written about it, I proceed with caution. Alarm bells start ringing. This often means there's no market at all. So, when I say research, what exactly do I look for? Well, there are a few things you can and should consider when defining your topic. In fact, the research you do here is going to come in very useful when working on other areas of your course. If you spend the time getting yourself all set up, the research you do here will help with marketing. It will help with the creation of your lessons. It will give you an insight into what your customers really want to know. You'll become more familiar with the terms they use. All important information you're going to find very useful later. I normally start with YouTube. and I'm looking for videos that are very closely related to my topic. I'm looking at how old the video is, how popular the video is, and then I scroll the comments looking for questions. Any questions that look interesting, I note down in a Google Doc or Evernote or any application that makes it easy to organise my research, and then I set up a folder on my desktop to put all my research in. I'm collecting questions and comments and ideas as they pop into my head. If something grabs my attention, I just note it down. Now, just as a side note, on the subject of questions, as a matter of good business, you should be on a constant quest to collect questions, even when you're not in research mode. Questions are the insight to what your audience wants. Your audience questions give you the answers on what to create, so collect them. And when you're collecting questions and comments, make sure that you note down the language and terms they're using. This will help you make sure your course resonates with them. Anyway, once I'm happy that I've extracted enough from YouTube, I'll then turn my attention to social, particularly Facebook. I'm looking for groups on closely related topics. Again, it's the questions I'm looking for. If I can, I'll join one of the groups and just outright ask. Now, if you do this, don't be spammy about it. Don't go self-promoting your upcoming course. Let's say you're looking at creating a course on homeschooling and your initial research indicated that this market is a little crowded, so you've decided a more niche course on homeschooling would be a better option. Say you thought that homeschooling children with ADHD was a more fitting topic, and I'm borrowing this example from one of my private clients here. You could drop into a few homeschooling groups and ask questions about homeschooling children with ADHD or maybe some other special needs. You'll soon find out how receptive the possible market is and what problems people are facing. Now, you could be a little bit more direct if you like. You could ask. You could post a question, something like, what do you think the biggest challenge of homeschooling children with ADHD is? What I've just described is the ask method. Now, don't be fooled by its simplicity. It works. It's simple and very effective. Find an audience, ask them what they want, give it to them. Once I've done my YouTube and social searches, I'll then turn my attention to Amazon. I want to see what books are written on the subject, and I want to read the reviews. Now, I'm not interested in the 5 or the 1-star reviews. I want the 3 or 4-star reviews. I want the comments that say, good book, but didn't cover this. You should be looking for comments that will give you an insight to the market and what's being ignored. Once you've done this, then it's time to start to review your competitors and general posts on the web. Anything to validate your idea or give you information for what direction you should be moving in. If you can find blogs or articles written, you could reach out to the author and open up a dialogue. All the time, through the whole process, you should be making notes, taking screenshots and saving all the interesting questions and comments. All this research is going to pay dividends on what you should be creating. It's going to come in really useful when you're marketing your course and deciding what free offers to create to attract your customers. You'll find this research invaluable. But a quick word of warning. When you're researching, you can go on forever. Just make sure you don't go down a rabbit hole here. When you're starting out with your research, it's a challenge. I won't pretend it's not. Once you've got your own customers, they'll tell you what they want. You can run surveys, ask for feedback. But all you're trying to do here is get a good starting point to gain traction. In fact, if you've already got clients, you could send them a quick questionnaire. But quick tip, if you do run a questionnaire, don't give them multiple options and checkboxes. You want open-ended questions. Text boxes where they have to write in the answers. And then a follow-up call after you've received the questionnaire back is something else that you could do to help you dig a little deeper. And you don't need to go all fancy either. You could use Google Forms, which is free. Or if you like, there are other great resources like SurveyMonkey. Well, there we go. Hopefully, this has given you an insight into how to start and make sure you're on the right track. In Lesson 2, we're going to go a little bit deeper and look at finding out what your customers really want and how to make sure they're going to be attracted to your course. After all, no point creating it if no one's going to buy it, and we want to make sure they do. Anyway, I hope you got value from this. And remember, I want to hear what you think. I want your feedback, your comments, your questions. So pop over to the Facebook group and let me know. So I'll see you in Lesson 2.